Hi, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. We are your fellow AMP mentors, and this is our presentation on surviving college away from home. I'm Natalie Nahar, and I go to Barnard College of Columbia University, and I am majoring in sociology and race and ethnic studies. I went to ECHS in 2021, or I graduated from ECHS in 2021.
My name is Philip. I go to Columbia. I study computer science and political science, and I graduated from Robert Trotter High School, ECHS as we all know it, in 2020.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kimberly. I go to Georgetown University. I'm on my third year. I'm a government major, minoring in sociology, and I graduated from ECHS in 2020 as well. So the first thing we wanted to cover was credit cards. So as students being out of state, there's no longer the convenience of being able to steal from your parents' pantry or and you have to consider travel. And so credit cards will be very helpful to cover these costs. I've listed the three most popular credit cards for students, and these are the benefits. The application process is very easy. Do not be intimidated by it. There is a section that requires you to mention your income, which is how they're going to calculate how much credit you're going to get. But I'm aware that as college students, many of us don't hold full-time jobs, but just put in the income that you think will grant you the credit that you will be able to pay off, and they don't require documentation. So point is, credit cards are very important. Do not hesitate applying, and yeah, it's good to start building your credit score now.
Next is traveling. I have a lot of experience with this, being from going to school and out of state, but I find that when it's the first week of school, it's best to check your syllabi and looking at when your midterm dates and your final dates are so that you can purchase tickets in advance. I also find that Google Flights is the best system to find the cheapest flights. They also have filters to see prices from lowest to highest. And I also find that if you stick to one airline, you get a lot of points and you can sign up for their members reward program. Southwest usually has 2 free checked bags, and other airlines are usually just 30 to 60, which adds up.
And then now we're going to be talking about work study. So on campus, there are two types of jobs that you could find, one of them being work study and casual work. And the difference is quite important, right? Because work study is something that's granted to you from your financial aid package. So once you get your financial aid package from your college, usually there'll be a section that says how much work study they're granting you. And also too, it concurs with this calculation that FAFSA does as well. So yeah, work study jobs include things like working at the library. What are some other work study jobs that you've done, Natalie and Kimberly?
Well, I haven't had a work study job yet, but I have friends who are preceptors for professors, and so they write notes and help with the technical stuff for professors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed my work study opportunities. I've worked at the Multicultural Center on my campus, and I've also worked for the program that supports FIGLY students. So, there are great opportunities for you to find jobs that fit your interests, and, you benefit from getting paid. Typically, it's very easy to obtain jobs. All you need to do is check your financial aid so that you know how much money is guaranteed. And typically, your university will have a portal with a list of jobs, and some may use Handshake, but it's just depending on your university. If you have any questions about that, I'm pretty sure you can contact your financial aid advisor and they can give you better guidance.
Yeah. And so now going back to this whole work study versus casual work thing. So yeah, work study jobs are primarily on campus, and then you're technically hired from your school. And they're really easy jobs. I work as an art, a receptionist at the art history department, and I maybe get 2 phone calls a day. But they pay really well, and it's really jobs that are your employer is keeping in mind that you're also a student, so you're encouraged to like bring your homework and work. Whereas casual work, sometimes casual work can also be on campus depending on what it is. So say for example, if your campus has like a cafe, so my campus we have like a Joe's Coffee. If I work there, that'd be technically casual work because I'm hired by Joe's Coffee rather than like Columbia, for example. And casual work, it kind of depends like on what you're doing, but like this could also be things like working at Target, or working, you know, at like a local coffee shop, things like that. However, I feel like for those of you guys that are granted work study is a better option just because there's like just more flexibility and I guess like the rules aren't as stringent. This Kimberly also brought up a good point that it's also a really good way for you to like get experience. I obviously didn't know that because I work in the art history department, none of which like I'm interested in. But yeah, it's like really good way for you to like know the professors in your department, and also to just like get close to them and like build connections. Then this next slide is about homesickness. Again, this like applies mainly to like students from like out of state, but also to like you could be 30 minutes away from home and still be home.
Being over 2,000 miles away from home, has been difficult. But I found that joining clubs have been very helpful. That is where I have found community. I've made great connections. And these clubs can be related to your interests, like maybe you want to learn investing, or maybe you want to connect with people of your background. And so I'm in a cultural club right now. But yeah, I think that is the best way to find your community. It's great to have a space that you feel comfortable on campus. So go ahead and join clubs and create that space for yourself.
Personally, for me, I find that it's best to find friends who are from Los Angeles or Southern California. I'm going to school in New York, and I like finding friends who are from LA because then we like bond over it being really cold, or we also get to make plans for the summer. So it's fun.
Kind of obvious, but I think it's like very important because I feel like up to this point in your life, you're like living with your parents or like your siblings and stuff like that. And I feel like a lot of times with like homesickness, it's not necessarily that you like miss home, but you just kind of like miss what's, like really familiar to you. Like, yes, that could include home, but it also could just be like things like your daily routine, like where you like walk your dog every day at 5 p.m. So not only call your loved ones, but also to like sort of find your own schedule and like do things that remind you of home, in a way that you're not distracting yourself, but also just like remedying your homesick. Storage. Okay, this is a really good one just because I feel like it's something that is kind of overlooked a lot. It's something that I didn't really think about when I was going to college, but a lot of times, like when you're moving into your dorm, you want to have like a really nice dorm so it feels like home. So you're like buying all these things. But then at the end of the year, you're kind of like, oh crap, like where did I put all that stuff? So there are three things, and I think that there's one that is like the best, and I think it's like having a friend that lives in the state that you're going to college in, and like use that to your advantage and like store your stuff in their space. But there's also things like storage units that you could rent for like super cheap. I would actually recommend you, like same thing with flights, like the earlier you look, the better, just because they know like these, like, especially like locally, they know like when students are moving out, so they're like able to hike up the price. But like if you secure a price like early on, then you're kind of like beating the curve. As far as packing goes, packing bags are like a great thing. I have a lot of stuff, and especially like if you're going to somewhere that's like not in the West Coast, it gets cold really easily. So like having things like coats and like big puffers, those things really take up a lot of space. So vacuum bags would be like great for like sort of like condensing that stuff. And then yeah, splitting it with 4 people, I think it's just like storage again. Like if you have a storage locker, like I think it's great if you like split it with another person too, because most likely you probably won't need the whole space. And then in terms of like packing, this is kind of like more proactive, but like less is more, especially because like I feel like in your first year you actually go home the most. And so like if you're going home for winter break and Thanksgiving break, for example, like when you're moving in for the fall, you don't have to bring like your largest and like all your winter coats, because that would just like take up space that you may need to like pack your computer and like all the other electronics and like things that you would need for your room. And so just like on this note, just like very strategically like plan out like what things you need for the duration that you're going to be like away from home. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. If you guys have any questions, you guys could definitely like email any of us or your AMP mentor. But yeah,